Hello, I'm Philip Maxwell, and in this video tutorial, I'll be explaining the construction of harmonic charts. So a few words before I start. This is a foundational video. It pays dividends to understand the construction before explaining how to interpret harmonic charts, which starts in the next video. As a prerequisite, it's a good idea to have a basic understanding of aspects. If you don't, you will need to research them first, although I will be doing a future video on aspects as well. So how are they useful? Harmonic charts makes it easier to find less obvious aspects, which gives a large increase of aspects, in fact, hundreds. Of course, having hundreds of new aspects could be confusing, and they would be useless, especially when viewed all at once. Fortunately, harmonic charts limits the number of aspects that you see at a time and groups related aspects together. Any given harmonic chart has a theme. If you know the meaning of that theme, you can derive the meaning of any aspect in that chart. These themes show various important facets of an individual and give a more complete view of the individual that would not be available using traditional aspects. So how are they arrived at? There are three simple steps. First, convert the planetary positions and all points you are using into degrees of arc. Next, multiply by the harmonic number that you want to look at. Then finally, translate the results back into signs. Now in practice, rely on a computer to do this for you. It's easy to mess up on the calculations. It could take you an hour or two to make a single harmonic chart. And there's plenty of good software out there to do it for you. You could even use Astro.com, which provides this feature for free. How are the planetary positions converted? First, separate the beginning of the sign from the degrees. So, for example, 15 Taurus, you'd separate 0 degrees Taurus from 15 degrees. Next, translate the beginning of the sign to degrees of arc. So below is a chart that I would use to convert from sign to arc. I will pause for a few seconds if you'd like to copy this down, because I do use this chart throughout the video. After converting the sign to degrees of arc, add the degrees of the sign to the arc. So we'll go with 15 degrees Taurus. It's already separated. Now we'll take 0 Taurus and convert it to 30 degrees and add 15 degrees to it for 45 degrees. Now as a reminder, each sign goes from 0 degrees to 29 degrees 0.99, or 29 degrees, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. So if you find yourself at, say, 52 Aries, remember to go to the next sign, in this case 22 degrees Taurus. About the multiplication. So the multiplication is pretty easy. It's just about choosing a whole number. I will give you a word of warning, though. You do need to know what that whole number means. Choosing a number such as 392 will not do you very much good if you don't know what 392 means. So how do you convert after the multiplication? So the result could be in excess of 360 degrees. So first you're going to subtract 360 degrees, and we'll do that until it lands between 0 and 360 degrees. And then you use the sign chart again to convert the degrees of arc to a sign. So for example, first you start with 380 degrees, and we'll subtract 360 degrees, and we'll find that at 20 degrees. Well, we know that that's between 0 and 30 degrees, so that lands at 20 Aries. Now, let's say we have 975 degrees. We subtract 360 degrees once, that gives us 615 degrees. That's not quite enough, so we subtract 360 degrees again, and that gives us 255 degrees. Now, the start of Sagittarius is at 240 degrees, so 255 degrees is between Sagittarius and Capricorn. We subtract 240 degrees from 255 degrees. That gives us 15 degrees, so we are at 15 degrees Sagittarius. Think of it this way. 360 degrees is simply a revolution around the circle. We want to know how close two things are together, not the amount of revolutions that are made. So an example using the fourth harmonic. Firstly, I'm going to simplify and thus use only the sun and the moon. Also, for ease of demonstration, I'm limiting my position to degrees. For true precision, you'd want degrees, minutes, seconds, and hundreds of seconds. Why? Because small differences get bigger as you multiply, especially at higher harmonics. Hundreds of degrees become seconds, seconds become minutes, and minutes become degrees. So for the calculations, first the sun at 12 Leo. So we convert that 12 Leo to 12 degrees plus 0 degrees Leo. Then we'll convert the 0 degrees Leo to 120 degrees. Then we'd add the 12 degrees to the 120 degrees, and that gives us 132 degrees. Now we'll multiply by 4, and that gives us 528 degrees. We subtract the extra 360 degrees off, that gives us 168 degrees. Then we translate that 168 degrees to 18 degrees Virgo. Next, for the moon at 12 Taurus. So again, we separate 12 degrees from 0 degrees Taurus. We add 12 degrees to 30 degrees, because that's where 0 degrees Taurus starts, and we come up with 42 degrees. We multiply by 4, we get 168 degrees, and then we can translate that 168 degrees into 18 Virgo. So a visual representation of what we just did. First, we started with the moon. We converted it into 42 degrees of arc. We multiplied by 4, so we have 4 42-degree arcs, which come to 168 degrees. And then we translate that into 18 Virgo. Next, with the sun. Again, we convert it to 132 degrees of arc. We multiply it by 4, so we have 4 segments of 132 degrees. That gets us at 528 degrees. We subtract 360 degrees. That gets us 168 degrees, and then we translate that into 18 Virgo. And of course, the result is a perfect conjunction between the sun and the moon. So why would that work? Why would having these two items that are at a perfect square result into a perfect conjunction when we multiplied by 4? Well, to explain that, I'm going to do the calculations a little bit differently. The moon I am going to keep the same. It's going to be 42 degrees times 4, 468 degrees. But the sun's position, I'm going to be a bit different. I'm going to separate that difference of 90 degrees from the 42 degrees. And then when I'm multiplying, I'll multiply with the distributive property. So it will be 4 times 42 and 4 times 90 for 168 degrees plus 360 degrees, which gives us 528 degrees. Then I subtract 360 degrees, and I get 168 degrees. So we can see then that as long as two planets are 90 degrees apart, they will come to the same position when multiplied by 4. So what if they're 180 degrees apart? So the moon is going to be at the same position. So the next calculation we're doing is with the sun. We're going to start with 42 plus 180 degrees, and then with the distributive property, multiply by 4. That gives 168 degrees again, plus 720 degrees for 888 degrees. We subtract 360 degrees once, that gives us 528 degrees. We subtract 360 degrees again, this gives us 168 degrees. And we can see here then that 720 degrees is simply 360 degrees times 2. So here again, we land at the same position. So we can see that if they're 180 degrees apart, no matter where you start for the sign, they're going to come to the same position when multiplied by 4. To skip to the punchline, this is also the same for 270 degrees. So 4 times 42 degrees plus 270 degrees is 168 degrees plus 1080 degrees for 1248 degrees. We subtract 360 degrees once for 888 degrees. We subtract it again for 528 degrees. And then we subtract it again for 168 degrees. So we can simply see that 1080 is 360 degrees times 3. Thus, any planetary position that you start with, if the next planet is 270 degrees away, it will always come to the same position when multiplied by 4. So this can be seen fractionally. So that 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or 270 degrees can be seen as 1/4, 1/2, or 3/4 of a circle, respectively. So of course, 1/4 of a circle multiplied by 4 gives a full revolution around the circle. In other words, 1/4 times 4 is 4/4, or 1. 1/2 of a circle multiplied by 4 gives 2 revolutions around the circle. So 1/2 times 4 equals 4/2, or 2. 3/4 of a circle multiplied by 4 gives 3 revolutions around the circle. 3/4 times 4 is 12/4, or 3. And then, of course, an exact conjunction would remain the same. 0/4 times 4 is still 0. Thus, any exact square, opposition, or conjunction would be an exact conjunction in the fourth harmonic. So what if the square was not exact? Squares being exact are kind of rarefied in astrology. So it's important to look at it in less ideal circumstances, which will most likely happen in the charts you're looking at. So the calculations for that example. So the first part was the same. The moon was at 12 Taurus, or 42 degrees. When multiplied by 4, it's 168 degrees. The second part, we're going to do a little bit different again. We're going to take that 2 degrees off from 90 degrees, but we're not going to do it right away, and we're going to add 42 degrees to it and multiply it by 4. We'll use the distributive property. We'll find 168 degrees minus 8 degrees plus 360 degrees gives us 520 degrees. 520 degrees minus 360 degrees equals 160 degrees, which is a conjunction with a difference of 8 degrees. So you can already see that the multiplying amplifies the difference by what you're multiplying by. In this case, 4. So we had a difference of 2 degrees from exact, and we multiplied it by 4 and found a difference of 8 degrees from the exact conjunction. This is why it's so important to have as accurate information as you can, because small differences amplify. So, what about the other aspects in the chart? We know what conjunctions mean in a fourth harmonic. They're either a conjunction, an opposition, or a square in the base chart. But what about the rest? Do the sextiles have significance? Do the oppositions have significance? How about the sesquiquadrats? Well, I would say yes, they do. So the other aspects. So, following a train of thought. By multiplying by 4, we multiply and magnify the difference between planets. So, thought of a different way. If the difference was 1/8 of a circle, we multiply it by 4, get 4/8, or 1/2, an opposition. Multiply 3/8 by 4, we get 12/8, or 1.5. An extra revolution is there, so an opposition again. If we have 1/12, we multiply it by 4, we get 4/12, or 1/3, a trine. 5/12 times 4 is 20/12, 1 2/3, a trine again. But be careful here. 1/3 times 4 gives us 4/3, or 1 1/3. And 1/6 times 4 gives us 4/6, or 2/3. Both of them are trines. So you do have to reference the base chart to see if it reflects an exact trine or sextile. So if we make a visual comparison between this Kathy Bates fourth harmonic chart and her base chart, we can now see, say, oppositions becoming sesquiquadrates or semi-squares. We can see that these trines here could be a inconjunct, or the trine could be a trine. So in general, to find the aspect in the base chart, multiply the aspect in the harmonic chart by that harmonic. So for example, a square in the fourth would be 4 times 4 or division by 16. In the fifth would be 4 times 5 or division by 20. And in the seventh would be 4 times 7 or division by 28. But do take care here. In odd number charts, squares, semi-squares, oppositions could still be that very same thing in the base chart if they're exact enough. In even charts, trines could still be trines. Exact or near exact aspects reappear in higher harmonics. So 1/3, you multiply by 4, it's 4/3, 5, it's 5/3, 7/3, 11/3, so on and so forth. For 1/4, you multiply by 5, it's 5/4, 7, it's 7/4, 9 is 9/4. Important to note are the orbs. Imagine having to memorize the orbs of dozens upon dozens of aspects. That would be quite overwhelming. But harmonic charts have an easy solution. They're always the same in each harmonic chart. Multiplying the position accounts for the smaller orbs you'd need in the base chart. Remember the orbs getting bigger from the base chart to the fourth harmonic chart in my example? Larger number would just magnify the difference even more. So, a conjunction is always 16 degrees. An opposition is 16 divided by 2 for 8 degrees. Trines are 16 divided by 3 for 5 degrees 20 minutes. Squares are 16 degrees divided by 4 for 4 degrees. Sextiles are 16 divided by 6 for 2 degrees 40 minutes. Semi-squares and sesquiquadrates are 16 degrees divided by 8 for 2 degrees. Inconjuncts and semi-sextiles are 16 degrees divided by 12 for 1 degree 20 minutes. So if you have a hard time remembering the orb, no problem. You can always use a calculator to remind yourself. It's 16 degrees divided by the number of the aspect. So in closing, harmonic charts vastly expand the number of viewable aspects. Harmonics are simply multiplying by a whole number and fitting the result between 0 and 360 degrees. So with so many aspects, it can be overwhelming. Fortunately, aspects are grouped. So the relevance is in patterns that the harmonic charts form, or tight orbs. So if there are no easily identifiable patterns or tight orbs, very likely the person won't register that harmonic. And the meaning is specific to the theme symbolized by that number of the harmonic. So stay tuned for the next 2 videos. There'll be a short video on how to get harmonic charts on Astro.com and SolarFire, and there's also the first in the series of harmonics discussing the fourth harmonic. So did you like this content? Please hit like and subscribe for more future content. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave a comment and let me know what you think. Also, I do readings as well. Email me at delphiniumstudios8@gmail.com if you are interested. And thanks for watching.